Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Cooking at Home with Gallatin Valley Farm to School. My name is Zoe and I'm the family cooking instructor for our organization. I hope you all are enjoying this beautiful summer day, getting a lot of sunshine in and maybe getting a lot of gardening in. Today we're going to do something that is one of my favorite things to do to lower the amount of food waste that goes on in my family. Right now we have a lot of leftover turnips from our spring harvest, so we're going to pickle up some turnips, but I also need some other vegetables that are going to go along with that. So I'm going to take you quickly to my garden and we're going to walk around and I'll harvest some stuff. Let's see what you guys can guess. Let's see if you can guess what I'm harvesting while I'm doing it. And I'll meet you back here in the kitchen. All right, so we are back in the kitchen. Did you guys guess all of the things that I picked out of there? Let's see. So we already discussed I have some turnips. If you didn't notice, this is going to be a root vegetable pickling. So we have some turnips. And then, does anybody know what this was? It kind of looks like a radish, but it's not. This is a beet. It's called a Coriander beet, and it's really fun. When we cut inside, I'll make sure to show you why it's so fun. And then these little buddies are radishes. And then we have a couple baby carrots. I like to do baby carrots in my pickling just because they're a little bit more sweet, so they add a little bit of sweetness that cuts that vinegary flavor. And then typical for pickling, the classic pickling herb, this is dill. And then one thing that might not be familiar to a lot of you were these. Now this is called nasturtium. It's an edible flower, and I planted it around my brassica plants, so like kohlrabi, broccoli, cauliflower. I planted it around those plants to try and ward off the cabbage worms. They don't really like the spiciness of things around it, so it kind of helps to keep them away from those plants. And then I also picked up some small red onions, and red onions are kind of the same as the carrots. They're a little bit sweeter when they're still little, like that. And I love pickled red onion just to put as a topping on like tacos or salads or anything like that. It adds a nice oniony, vinegary flavor. So besides all of my root vegetables, I need a couple other things. I need some jars. So I'm going to do it's a pint jar for my vegetables, and then I'm just going to do a little jar of pickled red onions. And then I need some other spices. I like to add a little bit of extra spice besides the dill. So we're going to add some cumin seeds in there. And we're also going to throw in some coriander seeds. Now these are actually something that I grew last year from my harvest. Does anybody know what coriander seeds come from? Cilantro. So when cilantro is done for the year, it will seed out, and if you collect those seeds and dry them, then you have coriander. And then you can grind it or you can leave it in its whole form. So I'm going to get the brine started while I cut up all of these vegetables, and the brine is pretty basic. You just need some water, some vinegar, and some salt. And you can use any kind of vinegar that you have on hand. So I like to use apple cider vinegar, but you can also use rice vinegar as well. Now if you have little ones at home that are a little adverse to the vinegar flavor, when we're going to make the brine, and then we'll pour it over our vegetables, and then if you add a little bit of honey and mix it together, it'll kind of cut that vinegarness quite a bit, so it won't be quite as aggressive for smaller mouths. So I'm going to get the brine going. I have a half a cup of water. I'll add a half a cup of apple cider vinegar and a half a tablespoon of salt, and I'll bring that to a boil and stir it until the salt is dissolved, and then I'll take that off the stove while I'm finishing cutting up my vegetables, and then we'll put it all together in just a moment. Okay, so we are back. All of my vegetables are chopped and my brine is done. It's been boiled and the salt has dissolved. This is a trick that I have. If you are using a liquid measuring cup, when it's done boiling, pour it back in this liquid measuring cup because the spout is going to come in really handy when we pour it over our vegetables. This is a recipe that I really like to do during family cooking nights because you kind of just set it up as an assembly line, and you could do this at home as well. Then chop all your vegetables up and then give your kids their own little jar, and then they can move through the line and make their own. And somehow that just adds a little bit of extra fun. And you know, I think that when kids can see and do things themselves, then they're more willing to try it, and maybe they might even like it when they know that they've made it themselves. And on that note, I want to talk about these beets a little bit. I told you they're a little bit fun on the inside. And again, these are called Kyogia beets. And you can see they're kind of striped. I always say that they look like they belong in a Dr. Seuss book. So I started growing these Kyogia beets, and now I love them. So I put them in everything. So they're gonna add a nice pink color to our pickled vegetables. So let's get going on building this. So we have our vegetable jar, and we're just gonna kind of pile these things in there. And I like to do them in layers, so I'll do a little bit of each vegetable. So we did the turnips, and these are purple top turnips. And this is what they look like when they come out of the ground. And I did peel the outsides. The outsides make them a little bit spicier than I can handle. So you don't have to do that, I just do because of my preferences. Now these nasturtiums are gonna add a little bit of spice. Normally when I add some of these dried spices to my pickles, I like to add red pepper flakes. But this time I'm gonna try, I've never done this, but I'm gonna try adding these nasturtiums and see if maybe they add a little bit of spice in there, because I do like a little bit. I'm gonna fill the rest of my jar here. Oh, that was just about perfect. And then I'm also gonna add a little bit of onion to it, just because I enjoy a little bit of onion flavor in my pickled vegetables. So I'll add a little bit of onion. And then when you're adding your spices, a good rule of thumb for a pint-sized jar is to add about 1 tablespoon of fresh herbs and no more than 2 teaspoons of dried herbs. So I have about a tablespoon of dill that I'll throw in there. And then I'm gonna do half a teaspoon each of the coriander seeds and the cumin seeds. And I do a heaping teaspoon, half a teaspoon. Okay, we'll kind of shake those around. Now this is the fun part. We're gonna pour and you wanna do this when your brine is just off of boiling, because it'll cook those vegetables just a little bit to take off some of the crispness. So we want our brining liquid to be just a little bit hot when we do this. So we'll add all of that, and they'll kind of cook down a little bit. And you put that lid on really tight and give it a little shake. And if you do put beets in there, you'll start to see the beets turn the liquid a little bit pink. So when this lid is on really tight, we're going to throw this in the fridge. And I like to let it sit in there for about 12 hours. Just the more you have it in there, the more fermented these vegetables are going to get. They're good as a snack. You can throw them in as toppings, like I said, for tacos or salads or anything like that. And it's just a nice way to add some color and some crunch and a little bit of that nice vinegar flavor to your ingredients. So I'm going to do the same thing with my onions. And for the onions, personally, I just do onions and a little bit of brine. I just really like that. That's just a simple flavor for me. So just onions and brine, and I'll do the same thing, leave them in the fridge for about 12 hours, and then they're good to go. And when you keep these in the fridge, they will keep for about 2 weeks. So you have a little bit of extra time to enjoy those vegetables before they are done for the season. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you all do this at home and enjoy your recipes. If you have your own concoctions that you make with spices or vegetable blends or anything like that, feel free to send them our way. We always are looking for new mix and matches of ingredients. You can check out our website for more videos on all things gardening and cooking. And we also have summer camps that are still going right now, so we have a lot of fun content in that regard as well. Thanks, and we'll see you next week.